So saying, so they all tell you the same thing. There is big holes. And then there's people who just slightly above it. Terrible.
You're doing that. Stop, go.
Hello, yeah. Hey, how are you? I'm there.
Yeah, it's different from over.
Ta-da!
Okay, I'm going to call the meeting to order. At this time, for roll call, everybody's in attendance. So at this time now, we're going to pause to seek guidance. I'm now going to read the mission statement, which is to provide, promote, or facilitate municipal services that meet the community needs while preserving, supporting, and enhancing the quality of life for all. You've got the agenda before you. Is there any additions or deletions?
I have two additions.
Okay, what?
Roundabout and
Business item 5.6.
yes, and
Sorry.
Yeah.
5.9.
Okay. 5.9.
And
You want with the second one?
I was asking for
Okay. And a motion to approve the agenda as amended.
So,
Seconder? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Approved. At this time, we have delegation presentation, and the first presentation tonight is Gloria Banks is going to speak to us on the financial statements. The floor is all yours.
Thanks very much. So I'm just going to do a high-level overview of the financial statements. We did meet with the audit committee last week, and we went over them in a little bit more detail. So I'll do a high-level presentation, but I'm open for questions if you have any. So I will go over the independent auditor's report, just because it is different this year. It's a new format and a little bit more information. So it has been changed as a result of changes in the auditing standards over the past couple of years. So you can see that it is a clean audit opinion. The very first part is our opinion. Our opinion used to be at the end, but now it's the very first item. And so it is, as I said, a clean audit opinion for March 31st, 2019. In terms of the basis for opinion, that would have remained consistent with the prior years. We have to follow generally accepted auditing standards when we plan and implement our audit. So there have been no changes in that. In terms of the responsibility of management and those charged with governance, so those paragraphs are fairly similar to last year. One of the things that was new and introduced this year is that management also has to make an assessment on the ability of the organization to continue into the future. So all statements are prepared on the going concern basis. So only if there was concerns about the ability into the future would that have to be brought into question and the conversation had. So that's new for management. And then also those charged with governance are responsible for overseeing the municipality's financial reporting processes. So that's a new line as well. So that just means your audit committee is also responsible for making sure the statements are appropriate in circumstances. In terms of auditing, our responsibilities are laid out on the second page, a little bit more detailed than they were in the past. So our goal is to obtain reasonable assurance about whether the financial statements as a whole are free of material misstatements. And so reasonable assurance is a high level of assurance, but it really is not a guarantee. So there are always circumstances where things could slip by and that we wouldn't catch them. Those tend to be in the areas of whether or not there's fraud or other things that go on. Of course, we didn't encounter anything while we did our audit that caused us to be concerned, but that is one option that why we might not find an error. So the things that we do is we identify and assess the risk of material misstatement, and we focus our audit efforts in the areas of highest risk for all associated transactions and balances. We have to have an understanding of your internal controls. We have to evaluate the appropriateness of your accounting policies, And then we also have to make a conclusion on whether or not we agree with management's assessment of the going concern ability of your organization. And then we evaluate the overall presentation. So as I said, we didn't find anything that caused us any concern while we did the audit, so they are dated today, which would be the day that council would accept the financial statements. And then on to page 4, which is the consolidated statement of operations and accumulated surplus. And so this is really your income statement, your revenues and your expenditures for the year. And you can see the budget, the 2019 actual and the 2018 actual. So you originally set your budget at $6,994,846, and you came in at $7,133,491. So you are actually ahead of your budget. A couple of things that are unusual and harder to budget for, of course, are deed transfer tax. So those unusual items that might happen during the year that you wouldn't know about when you were setting your budget in the year prior. So those are some of the things that might make a difference. And if we compare it to last year, your revenues were $7,346,704. So it's actually down a little bit. And that's because last year you would have received capital grants because you had a project underway for your sewer improvements. And so when you get a grant, it's recorded as revenue in the year that you receive it. And so you didn't have those grants this year. So that's why you see a small decrease in your revenue. On the expenditure side, you can see that you set your original budget at $7,163,765. And then your actual came in at $7,063,534. So you're actually a little bit under your budget. So your expenses were less than what you had planned. But in comparison to the prior year, you had spent $6,792,756. So it's up about $270,000 from the prior year. And a couple things that relate to the increase is because last year you had some expenses that were actually lower. So you had a recovery this year on your amounts that you had in terms of your allowance for your doubtful accounts. So you changed your policy and how that you make an allowance for them. And so that actually caused your expenses to be a little bit lower this year because you were able to recover some of the allowance that you had taken in the past. And then your pension asset also changed this year. So it's a little bit lower as well because you have a bigger asset position than you've had in the past for that defined benefit pension plan that you have. A couple of the areas where your expenses are up is in transportation, and one of those is for the King's Transit. So it was spent more than what had been planned due to repairs and maintenance and different operating costs that the bus would have incurred. And then there were some extra expenses around garbage and sewer treatment as well. So those are the items that would have caused your expenses to be a little bit higher than last year. At the end of the day, you still have an annual surplus this year of $80,732, which is still a positive balance, which is good. As a municipality, you're not really a for-profit organization. Your goal isn't to make a lot of money, but obviously it's not to lose money either. So in both of the past 2 years, you have seen a profit. So then we add it to your accumulated surplus at the beginning of the year. And so the net book value, I guess is what we would call it, of all the assets of the organization is $15,744,004. And then on to page 5, which is statement of financial position, which is basically your balance sheet. And we'll see that same number that we just saw at the bottom of your income statement ties right directly into this page as well, because that is the accumulated surplus. And you can see the top half of the financial assets, and those are the items that are readily convertible to cash. And in actual fact, your first 3 items listed there are cash or near cash equivalents. So you had cash in the bank, you had your treasury account, and you had your tax sale surplus account. So those 3 are cash. Under receivables, you can see there's $1,063,607, which has come down from the prior year. So your tax receivable balance actually is in a better position. We've spent some time working on those, so that's in a better position this year. And then we can see the pension benefit excess, so that's the asset, has actually grown over the prior year. It's $532,100 this year. So your total financial assets are $7,191,276. And then you have your financial liabilities, and that includes all current liabilities and long-term liabilities. Under this presentation, they're all grouped together, even though your long-term debt we know is going to be paid over years into the future. So you have your tax sale surplus account, so that's the amount that's set aside because you have to hold it for 20 years, and then if it's not claimed, it comes back into your reserves. It must balance with the amount that you have in the bank account. You have your general payables and accruals. You have your payable to your fire departments. You also have deferred revenue, so that's mostly made up of your gas tax money. So you've been paid in advance, but you haven't spent it on a particular project yet, so it's being saved up until you have a project that qualifies that you want to spend the money on. And then you also have your long-term debt. So you can see there was no new debt. All that happened was the changes that came down, and that's from the principal payments that you made during the year. So your liabilities are $3,413,668. So you have a net financial asset position. So you have more financial assets than you have total debt by $3,777,608. And then those assets, which we call non-financial assets, so that's the buildings and the equipment, the roads, all of those items that you provide services to your residents. The net book value of those is $11,966,396. And so that totals your accumulated surplus, which would be to the prior page. So the rest are supporting schedules and notes. So there weren't any significant changes in accounting policies as issued by the standard setters or in terms of what you have internally used this year. So there are no changes in the presentation of the financial statements or the notes at the back. And there are no significant items that needed to be noted, but we have gone over the details with the audit committee.
Thank you. Is there any questions? No questions? We have a motion to accept the financial statements.
A motion to accept.
Any questions? All in favor?
Aye.
Approved. Thank you very
Thank
much,
you.
Gloria. Thank you. The next presentation for tonight is Morgan Dunn, the Youth Engagement Coordinator position. Morgan, you want to come up? All in favor?
Before I begin, I'm just going to hand out something to all of you. So this is a booklet with additional information, and also it has PowerPoint slides. So if you'd like to take notes during the presentation, and just a copy of it, just in case you want to review it at any time. No, they were someone else's. But I am choosing to be able to assume they were still there.
Thank you.
Hello, I'd first like to thank you all for allowing me to come speak to you today. I'm going to be speaking on an opportunity for this community called the Youth Engagement Coordinator. This is in collaboration with Train the Tides, previously known as Inspiring Communities. Next slide, please. So I want to start off with the purpose of this presentation. The purpose of this presentation is for one, to inform you about this position that's being created, and secondly, in hopes of a collaborative partnership through accountability and communication, looking at common concerns, working together towards a shared focus, potential financial support once a shared focus has been decided. Next slide, please. So I want to start off this presentation with telling you a little bit about me. So this picture was actually taken at a youth engagement event about 5 years ago. So some of you may recognize this. This was an event that was in collaboration with Springtide Collective. So it was held at the fire hall, and there was a couple other initiatives done. So this event actually really strikes something for me. So I knew that I really enjoyed working with communities from some volunteer trips I had done abroad, but I didn't really realize how much I really enjoyed working with communities and looking at decision making, what goes into a community, and what goes into making a great community. So I actually ended up going into community development. I studied at Acadia for 4 years. And so part of my final year, I had the opportunity to do a placement, and I knew I really wanted to come back to Digby after graduation. So I contacted Jill, and so she had told me that she was working for a community development organization here in Digby. So I decided to take that offer and come here and work for part of a semester. But throughout this time, I decided to look at Digby as if I had never been here before. So I decided to look at all the census data and look at a bunch of different things about this community, because growing up in the community, I may be biased to different things, or I may not have experienced what it's like for many people in the community. Next slide, please. So throughout this research of finding out about Digby, I noticed that there was a 37% out-migration rate of youth, meaning there's 1 in 3 youth that leave the Digby area post-graduation. And unfortunately, that trend continues a lot through the young adult ages as well. So this was taken by looking at the 2011 versus 2016 census data. So I really want to kind of follow out why people were trying to leave the area or wanting to leave the area, because I really love the area, and I was kind of wanting to know why that was. So I found some other information that maybe some of the reasons why. So I looked at some survey data that was done by Inspiring Communities. I found people between the ages of 15 to 29 were the least likely to be connected to their community. And also, of 7 out of the 9 theme groups from the community consultation event showed that there was a lack of youth engagement within the area. So I wanted to also highlight some other things happening within Nova Scotia as well. So this is a recent report. It was actually done 2 weeks ago. So many of you may have read this by now, but this was a viability study done by Grant Thornton for Cape Breton Regional Municipality Viability Steering Committee, and it found that they were losing population at an alarming rate. So they were losing about 800 people per year and close to 8,000 over 10 years, which is quite significant. When doing some research of why they thought that was, they found out that it was because of young people leaving. So it was because of young adults and young families leaving the area. Next slide, please. So throughout this time doing my placement, I found that we maybe weren't including youth as much as we could, because we weren't asking their thoughts or opinions, we weren't including them in decision making, and if we wanted to help the community as a whole, we need to make sure that we're including youth. So I pitched them a position called Youth Engagement Coordinator, and they decided that they really liked it. So I pitched it to both the local and provincial team, and they actually have decided to hire me on for 2 years. So I'm going to be working with them here in Digby. And so, because they believed in this position enough, and they also saw that the lack of youth in the area and the lack of engagement was a huge issue within the area. So I'm going to be working mainly with people between the ages of 15 to 30. I'd also like to highlight some of my main goals that I hope to accomplish throughout this. I have a longer list in my pamphlet, but I just want to highlight a few of them here for you today. So one of my main goals is to engage youth through existing programs or projects and develop programs or projects that don't currently exist. This is very crucial for youth engagement for a couple different reasons. One, because they want to become leaders within the program or project, or they want to continue participating, and they kind of want to go higher up within it because they saw it kind of start from the beginning. Another reason is that they want to come back to see the success. So if they decide to go for post-secondary, a lot of them, they want to come back because they may be like, oh, I remember how long it took us to build that, or I remember how long it took us to develop this. And it's kind of that pride thing too. And then they want their family or they want their children to experience it as well. The second one is support youth that decide to stay, as well as youth that return home after post-secondary education by connecting them to resources within the community. So within doing some research and talking to youth in the area, a lot of them feel that they don't really know about a lot of resources. A lot of them have told me that, oh, I don't know where to find a job, or I don't know where to go look for a rent. We have such amazing, amazing services here in Digby, such as Nova Scotia Works, and many others, but unfortunately a lot of them don't know about some of those, so making those more available to young people. And lastly, by creating an atmosphere in which youth feel open and free to share their thoughts and opinions. Next slide, please. So the way that I hope to achieve this is through 5 phases. So the first one is build relationship, stakeholder engagement, and research. So I've been talking to people who work with youth, and I've been talking to youth directly to try to build some of those relationships even before I start in September, just to make sure those are connections that I can use throughout my time working with the youth, but also to make sure that they're engaged as well throughout this. Second, stakeholder engagement, so talking to people such as yourself. And lastly, by doing research. So doing research about different youth engagement, things that have happened in the past year in Digby, around Nova Scotia, and around other areas, as well beyond our province. Looking at both the successes and failures, because I think that we can learn a lot from each other, and a lot of what has already been done, and we can build upon other great things as well. Next, by having group discussions and developing leaders and mentors. So having more in-depth conversations. So asking why people want to stay in Digby, maybe why they don't. What would change that? What would change for them to want to stay in Digby? And just kind of asking some of those more in-depth questions that sometimes people aren't asked. And also to allow some of the older ones to become leaders too, because a lot of young people, they react really well to also having other young people. And so having some of the older young adults be able to be some of those leaders as well. Next, pre-implementation. So is something that we create feasible? Do we have grants for it? Is everyone engaged? Or is there a large group of youth engaged, or is it only a small group? Is there community buy-in? And looking at some of those questions. Next, implementation of a project or program. And lastly, evaluation. So how did it go after the first year? Are people still engaged? And asking some of those questions as well. I also want to highlight some of the benefits here for you today. So we're going to be looking at youth, local government, and the community. So when looking at the youth, it helps to empower youth and create, helps the youth to be able to share their voice and opinions. It allows youth to have more leadership opportunities and to view themselves as leaders. It helps them to create ownership over their community. It also, based on different studies that were done, it also says that it will help to improve academic performance and reduce dropout rates because people feel more connected and there is someone there to help support them through that. It also helps to promote personal growth and identity development. When looking at local government, it helps with economic development. So it helps bring in more tax dollars into the area. It helps there to be more money spent in the area. When looking at community development, it helps to enhance the diversity within the community. And it also helps to allow for more creativity and innovation. And then looking at social development, it helps to engage more citizens and help them want to be involved. And it's also, based on different studies, it's also shown that it will help. It could help voter turnout and more people be more interested in local government. And lastly, looking at community, it helps to get rid of stereotypes that about young people, because often we hear, oh, young people are lazy, or young people don't care about the community, and some of those, so it helps to destruct some of those. It helps create more community volunteers. It encourages intergenerational collaboration and communication. Next slide, please. I'd like to conclude this presentation by restating the purpose of the presentation. So again, it's to inform you of this position, and also in hopes of a collaborative partnership. So looking at accountability and communication, so someone I can be accountable to and report back to, so whether that be a person directly or the council as a whole, just to let you know the progress, different findings I find with working with the youth. And if I have any questions about maybe what has been already done in the community and some of those as well. Looking at common concerns and working together towards a shared focus. As you could tell, 15 to 30 is very broad, is a big age group. So I'd really love some help trying to figure out where to start in that. So based on your previous work within the community and previous knowledge, or even if there's any other data that you know about within the Digby area that maybe kind of direct me towards which age group I should start with first within that broad range. And lastly, potential financial support once a shared focus has been decided. This is a great opportunity to address the high out-migration rate of youth, since it has so many benefits for youth, local government, the community at large, to invest in a position that can help youth feel more connected to their community. Thank you for your time. I'll now take any questions you may have.
Okay, thank you. Questions?
Excellent presentation.
Deputy Warden first. She had her hand up.
When you finish with all your data, which is at least 2 years down the road, what do you plan to do with that data?
I plan to present it back to the council, to you guys, but I also hope that the position will continue, or that someone else will be able to pick it up and reuse it, because I think that this is valuable information that I think will help anyone moving forward with youth engagement to help keep young people in the area, since it's such a huge issue.
Will you be sending it or dealing with the province on this as well?
I haven't considered that yet. And also the information will also be shared with Inspiring Communities, since that will be where my position is held at this point in time.
You've done an excellent presentation.
Thank you.
Or I would have picked on you. But I think you had a big window there. It's huge. So I hope that you're able to sort of maybe little sections that would be.
Yeah, that's what I was thinking too.
I think the work is going to be phenomenal, and I think you'll go for it. I think you'll do a great job. But don't get yourself too overwhelmed, because this is going to be fabulous for all of Nova Scotia. And so not only should it be to the town and municipalities, but it should be shared to the province.
Councilor Tudor?
Nice to see someone grappling with the demographic changes. You know, it's the forest for the trees. Not a lot of people are noticing this. Whichever concern you have, it goes back to our increasingly disturbing demographic situation. So it's nice to see someone grappling on it. On our priorities list, there's a little section of things that engage with youth. Is one of them, and I think you've been appallingly poor, really. So it's nice to see something like this coming together, and this is something I'd be interested in throwing resources towards, because I think it's one of it's that issue. Is what sort of community are you going to have when there's no more kids in it? So, yeah, very good presentation. Nice to see somebody identifying this issue and doing work towards it.
Council Manager.
Nice presentation. It would be nice to, in a year's time, to give what information you already have and how things are going.
Yeah, for sure. I will definitely come back. Thank you.
Councilor Ross.
Great presentation, Morgan. They pretty much said everything. Maybe you can come back in a year's time and keep us up to date. It'd be great.
I will.
Great job.
Thank you.
Yeah, I'd like to thank you for the presentation. We have done some work in the past on youth engagement, and so if you contact the office, you can get information from us as to what we've done to help along with your studies or your research on this.
Thank you.
I'd also suggest that you talk to the Western Regional Enterprise Network, our economic development arm, because they could possibly provide you with some data that they have collected. But you had mentioned CBRM and the out-migration from there. Once you start looking at the data for here, you're going to find that our population decline has been just as great here as it has been at CBRM. Because over the past 20 years, we've lost 20% of our population. Right around that number. And when young people leave, this is just my observation, but when young people leave the area and go off to further their studies, they go to a city, tend not to come back because they get used to the lifestyle, and it's hard to attract people to come back to small communities. But I'm hopeful that you can maybe make some changes regarding that. So.
Can I just add one more thing? Another thing too I've noticed is maybe talk with University of St. Anne's. I've noticed a lot of young people sticking around, like you just said. With the French immersion course in this community, you're starting to see people use a university that's close to home, and they tend, when they get done their studies there, they tend to stay in the area too. You're worth looking into that
I will for sure.
organization too.
Thank you.
Are you familiar with the sociology paper, Learning to Lead?
Was that the one that was done by Michael Corbett?
Yeah.
Yes, I am. Yeah,
That's
I've
why
read
I
that
think
paper.
that's a real good starting place for what you're going to do.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you for your presentation.
Thank you.
Good luck with going forward.
Thank you very much.
Okay, the next thing on the agenda is the approval of minutes of June the 24th. Can I have a motion to approve the minutes?
I motion to approve the minutes of June 24th.
All in favor?
Aye.
Approved. Unfinished business from the minutes of June 24th. Anything?
Nothing from me.
We're going to move on to the CAO report. Meeting dates and reminders. You've got the information before you. Is there any conflict? Well, hearing none, we're going to go on to the action items of previous meetings. Anything? Update on capital project 1920. I don't think there's an update of it.
Other than the fact that it's just been approved, there's been no
Yeah.
spending.
Do we know when they are going to go to tender for the new transit bus? Is that going to be in the fall, or? Do you know?
I've had conversations with the manager, and I think they're working with Annapolis County and CORE as well. So they are actually developing the tender, so I expect that that'll be going out very shortly.
Because I see that the bus that they're using right now is not either one of our two. So,
Yeah.
yeah. So, okay, the financial report. I have approval of June 2019 payables of $874,591.61. For the seconder. All in favor?
Aye.
Approved. Income and payables expense report for April, May, and June of 2019. And then motion to accept. Have a second? All in favor?
Aye.
Approved. Strategic priority items, update on the strategic priorities work plan. This is from the last meeting. We looked at this, and the changes have been made. So I believe
It's on the priority chart, that's the work plan, but I know the priority chart.
Yeah.
I think you usually, I sent out a copy of it.
Okay. There we go there. So we've got the 4 now priorities and the 3 next priorities. So everybody's okay with that?
Yeah.
Okay. The next is standing committee items, the bylaw and policy, lease, recommendation that the CAO be authorized to sign the bus storage lease.
Motion?
No, not, just before you do, I've had some meetings with the Colwells, and there was a couple issues that, were waiting to be addressed, so we're not ready at this time to, sort that out or to sign it.
This is the recommendation to allow you to do it when it happens.
Yes, but I think there will be some financial impact on the budget too.
Okay.
So what they're
Do you
proposing,
want
like,
to table this for now?
well, we can, or we can talk about it tonight, if you wish.
Yeah.
So I met with them on just last Friday, and we went through the lease agreement, and they were quite pleased with it. There's a couple clauses in clause number 11. I think, and I spoke to our lawyer since. So we're going to just say the requirement that they have insurance. They already have insurance, and there was a clause in there that they would be responsible for any damage caused by leaks. So that part was really not something that they wanted to see in there. And I think clause 9 and 10 cover that. I guess maybe we don't have it.
No, we don't.
Okay. It's the same one that we had before. Yeah. So I think we can come to an agreement on that. The other one was some discussion on the monthly rent. So they're looking for a, increase. They suggested $700 a month. And I indicated to them that we've already set our budget for this year. That's the other thing that we'd have to talk about. We currently pay $500 a month for storage of the buses in that area. We indicated some costs of, energy costs, snow clearing, that type of thing. There's a couple recommendations I would recommend, and I indicated to them that our budget is set for this year. So there would not be any change this year, and that perhaps over the because this is a 5-year lease agreement, that we could ramp up either the 2 ways, either by $50 a month, like so next year would be $550, and then by year 5 we would be up to the $700 a month, or increase it like 10% each year, so which would be like $550, then $605, $655, and then $732. So there's 2 options there. But with the budget, and we just heard from the auditors that we were over in our budget for King's Transit last year. So chances are we might be getting tight again until we get our new bus. So I'm not recommending that we change it this year, but maybe look at year 2, 3, 4, and 5 have a slight increase.
We've now officially taken over liability. Will.
I think,
Something to us.
well, if they're not, then we have to go back and have another option, I guess, because I don't, I can't answer for them. I did say,
Was that the suggestion?
I didn't suggest anything
Oh, okay.
when I met with them. I didn't, other than indicating that this year would be difficult to change because their budgets are set. But I didn't indicate.
Sounds like a big increase all,
About 40%.
big jump in 1 month, right?
Yeah.
In 1 year, whatever.
But how long has it been at 500?
We raised it not that long. I think for years it was 200 or 300. So it's been 500 since I've been here.
But now,
So
Well, no, I shouldn't say that. It's been 5 years, or it's been probably since, this is the 5th year of this lease, so I'm assuming at 5 years ago, it went up to 500.
So it'd be reasonable for them to take that small increase over the next.
I would say an exhilarator clause in is usually what you see in some of these agreements, but whichever way.
yeah, that seems fine. He's also taking on liability officially. He didn't
We
go.
had it before, we had insurance.
Well, yeah, but they always chase after whoever's got the cash.
No, but
The
we
best
had
thing is
insurance.
to give direction to you to continue to negotiate.
So if either of those 2 options are acceptable, we would go, or do you want me to wait and bring it back?
I think those.
If either one is acceptable to him, and
Yeah.
it's agreement, I say fine.
Yep.
Yeah.
If it isn't, then you're probably gonna have to come back.
That makes sense, yeah.
Well, I think I'd go with option 1, which is
Option 1, make it October
which
7th.
brings it up to 700 a month by year 5.
Yep.
So there's additional, like they receive additional money because they get paid separately to wash the bus too,
That's a
which is
separate contract.
closer to like $4,000.
So can I have a motion then to recommend that the CAO enter into a contract agreement and also be authorized to sign the bus storage lease?
I so move that we enter into further contract negotiations, and that, once completed, that the lease is signed by our CAO.
Based on our conversation,
I'll second that.
yeah. Any questions? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye, approved. Yeah. Committee of the whole, business items, first one, Digby Area Board of Trade, signage on the new highway. This letter came forward to me and I wanted to put it on the agenda. And I feel that we should write to the Department of Transportation, asking for them to put signage, saying there's a business loop. They do it in other parts of the province. And because they've cut off probably 95% of the businesses on the road from Marshalltown to the Weymouth North. And I actually talked to another business owner today, and he brought it up to me, not knowing that this letter came forward. So
So it would just be a sign indicating there's businesses,
Would be a bit, yeah, but indicating that there's businesses
we
and,
would be able to list all the businesses.
no, it's called a business loop sign.
So you need a motion? I so move that, we send a letter of this request
I second it.
to
Nope. Sorry, I had to come back.
to TIR, and could be CC'd to our MLA.
And you seconded it,
Yes.
all in favor? Approved.
Maybe, I wonder if it's appropriate to ask you in a hurry, because it takes so long sometimes for these things, right?
Well, you remember, it's not opening until at least fall.
No, but still, well, I just got something I asked for 5 years ago, it just came today, showed up in the report.
Must be open in
a
August.
little.
Pardon?
Supposed to be open the end of August. They started paving.
Sooner than I thought.
Well,
They've already got
That's what
signals.
they said, that would be minimum of the office,
Well,
and it could be a lot longer.
I've been talking to some of the contractors that are doing the work, and that's what they're telling me now.
So who needs to leave, TIR or the contractors?
The guys that are actually doing the work.
So you're saying the contractors, not TIR?
I'm saying that people are doing work.
I'm shocked.
Anyway,
Would that be a sign at each?
yeah, it would have to be on each end.
At each end.
Never heard of them before. Makes sense.
So the next business item was the Digby County Exhibition second funding request. When I read that, it didn't look to me that that was a second funding request. It was sort of like a request for funding, but we already given them a grant.
What do we do next month?
They were aware of that, because in the email she thanked us for the $3,000 that we give her a year. So this is something,
What are they asking for?
it's a sponsored,
Well, they don't give a specific amount
I
of money.
didn't get this, so.
Yeah, I did.
You didn't get the minute?
Anything.
You back?
Did you get the package?
Well, aren't we already diamond level?
Last night.
What?
If you're getting $3,000, should we
Talking
already
to you
diamond
at
level?
8 o'clock at night on
Be
the
above?
camera, and I was too busy today.
Super diamond.
Must be something with your computer, 'cause
It's not on my cloud anyway.
No, the cloud doesn't work. You have to go in through the internet cloud, that's where all your files.
Yeah, well, mine's always works.
I already want the diamond level if we gave them 3,000. I think that if we give them $3,000, then the diamond level right there, sponsor recognition. I kind of think we would deserve a diamond level, and if we helped out, we gave $3,000. I don't know if this is the sort of thing you get extra money for. We usually don't. I don't know. What are you guys thinking?
Thinking
I'm
that
thinking we already gave her $3,000.
we've already given a grant for this year, and for next year, if they would like to see if the grant could be increased, they could maybe come to council, do a presentation prior to the budget,
Yeah.
because it has been $3,000 for a long time.
I think yeah, a lot of them, all those grants have been $3,000 as long as I've been here.
So, how does everybody feel?
I think we should send them a letter stating that we feel we are already at the diamond level, and that if they need an increase for next year, that they need to fill out the grant application and or do a presentation. I put and or because.
Presentation is always a good way to go.
Well,
I always find they get more
People
attention.
need the opportunity if they can, but if they can't, you don't want them to think that they are gonna get.
So we can do that.
Okay, so we'll go on to the next one, which is the Liswell Community Church funding request, which is, what's your feelings on that one?
I don't see how we can give money to their proposal, though I did go talk to her about other things and members of the community being able to raise money and, if they had a specific project, as it is nonprofit. I was just thinking of those sorts of things because as it's written, I can't see how we could ever, it by the way, violates several of our policies. I'd still like to help them because they do a tremendous amount of good. They work with every group, from the feminists to the villages to the family center downtown. Those guys are great.
What are they asking for and why?
$34,800.
To hire 2 people to work with them. I can't see how we can ever do it, even though they do great work, but there is other options, and I spoke to them about several of them. Like, I'd love to give them this, and I can't say how much good they've done in my community, and they're really, positive, but it's just not what we do, what they're asking for.
Well, I mean, we help out similar organizations. I would be opposed to doing $200 like we have with other ones. However, reading what Tim has put in this letter, I feel that council and anybody in the municipality should not be against any kind of economic growth in this county with numbers like that. That's really depressing numbers, and I know Tim was in the great work and service to show us this, and he writes this out here. I mean, we can't do 34,000, but I'd like to help him out with $200, but I'd also like everybody to kind of realize, like, if this is just between Little River and Westport, you know, look at my district,
Everybody's
your district. That's not good.
I think that there's other ways that we can do this, that maybe I could sit down with him and I could talk, I could go over provincial grants that he might be eligible for, charitable options.
I think it's more provincial, but I think we could help him out like we have.
But there's things, does he pay taxes on that, old folks home that he operates for like $200 a week or whatever it is, next to nothing that he operates? Like, maybe we could, is it a nonprofit, is it set up as a nonprofit? What do you think, Linda?
It's run by the church.
So then, is he paying property tax on that building
I
then?
don't think so.
Then maybe that's something that's
But
hundreds
If
of
it's a
dollars.
church,
The
it wouldn't be,
any income goes into the church from that home.
okay, so you're not talking about a church and that they operate out of.
The
Their house?
It's
They hear the house.
the Live Well Community Church, Leela's, Lodge is ran by Tim Long and his wife. All profits goes into it. It's not theirs. It goes into the Live Well Community Church. It's
So they do everything through the nonprofit, just like if someone owns a
Yeah,
business,
it's
they do
not-
everything through the business.
yeah, that's how it's run. It runs directly into the church. It's through the church.
Yeah, it's a nonprofit,
It's
old
not a
folks.
church.
It is.
It's not a
They have
church.
congregation.
It's a lodge. Oh, yeah, there's a congregation in the
Yes.
church. There's two churches,
There's two separate things.
And they
but
operate,
it's operated through the church.
and it's operated, if it's operated as a nonprofit, it would certainly be within the possibility of us knocking his property taxes off. If that building is, and I would like to go see him, he's in my district, I see him all the time.
I would think, no offense,
Not to say, oh, we can do this, what we need.
no, but maybe who they should talk to is the CAO
Okay.
and let them go talk to, because I'm pretty positive that that's how that place is run. It's a nonprofit.
It
run
says
through the
right in the
church.
application that they've got nonprofit status, and they've got their number here and everything, so they do have nonprofit status.
Then let's
So I think,
check that out then.
I think this, you know, it could be looked at that way.
I'd be very,
It'd be more
much
than
in
$200
tune to taking away their taxes. That would give them money.
That would be like
Not a lot,
$800
but a
or
little bit.
something, $900 for them, $1,000.
Okay, would you like to table this until the next time we meet,
Yes.
Yes.
and then get some more information?
Yeah, and I guess Linda Frazier would discuss it with them, and I'll maybe pop by later and talk to them about it.
So I am talking to them about, I mean,
would
I can
think-
talk about their tax exemption.
That's what I'm talking about.
I can, yeah, I
Yeah,
can just do
that's
some
what we
research
can
on
look
that.
at.
But as
We
far
can't
as
look
other
at-
programs and that, I mean.
It's just me looking, I can look for charitable.
That's all we're looking
Yeah.
at.
All right, no, I can talk to them about the tax.
So, yeah, she can
exemption.
handle that, and then they had some, I already spoke to them today, so there is some ideas popping around.
But I'm just saying, we can look at it. I agree with you.
Yeah,
We
that's
can look at
something
tax
I,
exemption.
what can we do today, what we've not today?
But it's not just today, it's every year.
I know it is, it goes forward,
Yeah, it's a forward thing.
it adds up a lot to them.
Okay, the next item on the agenda is property tax reduction due to fire damage, and it's pertaining to AAN 04667204, Darren Young and Jennifer Lee Young on 43 Little River Road, Little River. and they've had a total loss on their property. So the recommendation is to, the yearly taxes prior to the fire was $908.13, and based on the assessed value of $65,300, and the yearly taxes after the fire is $75.10 based on the assessed value of $5,400. So recommendation is going to be to give them a refund to offset the difference.
Right off, actually.
Right off of the assessed value of the property. So
$833.
I'll move that.
And I'll second it.
any questions?
No.
All in favor?
Aye.
And we have a bylaw that covers.
Yeah, it was, it's just, I know that house.
Then,
No, it wasn't, just back in the corner, yeah, I've knocked on that door before.
okay, the next item up for today is the Admiral Digby Museum. We had, gave them funding regarding this, and they've asked for a second funding request. The request is, we gave them a grant of $1,160, but they're looking to see if there's a possibility that we can give them some more money, because they feel it's going to cost them $4,000 to paint the building. But through our community grant funding, we did give them a grant.
But normally we give them $2,500, right?
That's right.
So I would like to so move that we pay the difference from the grant money we gave them and bring it up to $2,500, what they've always gotten. Because I think what happened is, they were assuming, and what they were supposed to do was, that they were going to get the $2,500 plus the grant, the extra grant. So I would like to so move that we give them the difference that they've gotten up to the $2,500.
Is there a seconder?
So you need another,
I want to second it before we discuss it. Okay, now discussion. Councilor Tudor, you had a question?
yeah, 240, I'll talk about it. Well, they made their newspaper public access, so I say, let's do it. I say yes, I totally move that. I second this, absolutely. Because they were very cooperative with that. I can go and look at the newspaper now. They're good community members. Love to give them $14.
Well, I'm looking at it, that we've always gave them 25, so I have no problem with the difference.
Councilor Manager, any questions? Ross? Okay. All in favor?
Aye.
Approved. Also on that topic, I just received a card today, and they're going to be having a fundraising turkey dinner and silent auction, and it's going to be held on August 3rd at the Curling Club. And this is a fundraiser for the Digby Library and Historical Society, so I wanted to pass that on. Tickets are $50 each with an income tax receipt of $35 if so desired. Okay. That was Keenan from Gail Hertzig today.
What's the date, August 3rd, what time?
August the 3rd. It doesn't have a time.
I think it's 6 p.m.
Oh, sorry, it does have a time, 6:30 p.m.
Oh, 6:30.
Yeah. I like her writing, but it's hard to read. Pick stuff out. Okay, the next item is the resolution of council for the Digby Town and Municipal Housing Corporation, the tax exemption legislation. And this pertains to the Tyview property. Prior to the new build, the building was in the town and now it's in the municipality. So we've got to change.
Have they paid any taxes to us at all?
Never since it was built back in the 70s.
No, I meant since
No, they just,
2009.
no, this is a housekeeping thing, you'd never charge them tax. We assume they would continue to be tax exempt, which they have.
Okay, and did they request this, or is this just?
It's a housekeeping issue that we have.
Leave that whole thing right?
All right.
Yes.
Well,
All the work.
just approve the resolution. We'll include that in the minutes.
So a motion for council to approve the attached resolution approving the amendments to the 1975 Act, Chapter 80 of the Act of 1975.
Seconder. Any questions? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye, approved. The next item is the 4-H Nova Scotia funding request.
That's for Nova Scotia law, is that for us here?
The question I had with that was there any local,
There is two local 4-H's. One is somewhere, I know the kids from the Bay, I think they go to Bay River, and there's two. Anyway, there's two 4-H's. But my thing is, I would rather give to the 4-H groups
Me
locally
too.
than provincially.
Me too. All right, great.
That's just my own.
But that's if we let these guys know, that only makes sense if we ask the local, well, either way it does, but if we ask the local group to send us a letter for $250.
do we not have the local 4-H group, do they take care of the gardens for us at the Mount Rules property?
They used to.
Yes.
Yeah, they still do, and we pay them to do that.
Yes, the Maple Bud.
Pay them to do that.
We pay them to do that right now.
I think in the past, we provided, a grant for a burn they had built. They didn't ask this year, but they have asked me.
Didn't we give a grant to the Canton Road?
Yeah, that was local.
That's what I'm
Yeah.
saying.
This is provincial.
That's
This
just that
request.
I'm not, I think our money is.
Yeah, I
agree.
I
Yeah,
think
okay,
it's
yeah.
provincial.
It's tight, and we still may give them an application probably, it's not over, so.
Yeah, exactly.
So everybody's okay that we'd rather support a local initiative?
Yeah, Linda, would you be able to maybe mention it to me, would that be
Yeah,
reasonable?
no problem. I'll let them know that eventually we're not supporting that.
Well, no, I'll respond.
No, I'm talking to the local group, to their leader. I'll just casually mention in the past, and they know, because
Yeah,
that's why, they couldn't have brought it this
If
year.
they're having a show or something, they can get a little help with us. And also, it might actually help with our lead grant. I gotta look over that, it's, some few beach malls, I gotta look over it.
Okay, the next,
Confused by that.
the next item is the Digby Railbed Trail Tender Recommendation, and, there's been 4 people that put in, bids on this, and, the tenders for the installation of 3 culverts and graveling a stretch of the Digby Railbed Trail near the Van Buskirk Road. So the 4 proposals received in response to the request for tenders: T&W Excavating was $15,900, Versatile Excavation was $28,917, Elf Construction was at $34,449, Moore Enterprises was at $39,760, and recommendation is to award the contract to T&W Excavation.
I so move that we accept the recommendations for the tender T&W Excavating for $15,900 to be awarded.
Do I have a seconder?
Second it.
Any questions? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye, approved. The next item is 5.9, which is a roundabout, and I'll turn that to Deputy Warden.
A few days ago, there was a meeting for the roundabout. And in the meeting, it was brought up that there needs to be a sidewalk and crosswalks. And Mr. Tony Harvey stood up and said a detailed map had been already taken to the municipality. They had gone over it, and we did not want crosswalks or a sidewalk. I had 3 calls from 3 people who all said the same thing. And I was not at the meeting, but I would like that checked out, because I told each person, we do not have anything to do with the roundabout. We would not be saying yay or yay. I said, the roundabout, I've never seen it in detail. We were sort of showing a map with the, when they're doing the highway, but nothing in true detail, and no, we did not refuse. And then I said, well, I will do a double check here at council. Maybe I was in a fog and off in Never Never Land, because I cannot remember any such meeting or time that we ever said no. Because it has nothing to do with us.
I can't imagine us
But that-
opinions on the.
And they said, and each one told me it was Mr. Harvey that stood up and said it.
We've never had that conversation, and the
I would-
sidewalk is going.
I really feel
Yeah.
that this needs to be dealt with, because people are out there now
They can work that.
being told that we're the ones who said no for people trying to get through the roundabout that have to walk. Now, the person that was there was the guy who designed the roundabout, and he said he was told there would be never any pedestrians there.
So, okay, well, that doesn't sound like we said no then.
He didn't say no.
Well,
He
it sounds
didn't,
like
but it was Mr. Harvey that stood up and said that. Now, I have been told since that they are trying to make a sidewalk there, until the next day after that meeting. But my thing is, it's out there, that it's us that is causing all the problems, that we're the ones who refuse. And I would like that sorted out. I think that's not a good thing, 55 people being told, and that went out like tensions.
It's hard to correct something like that until people see the sidewalk, and they're gonna say, oh, well, it's a sidewalk.
But the provincial government's looking at doing something. They're building the road. They hosted the public
But
meeting.
then it needs to be said.
Because I've never heard-
Municipality had nothing to do with the roundabout.
But we weren't at the meeting to hear that directly as what was said.
No.
So-
I'm saying I would like it, yes, oh, thank you very much.
Well, Councilor Ross, you were at the meeting, were you not? Or part of it?
I was there for the beginning of it. I think there was an assumption that, municipal, it was being built by the municipality, but it wasn't, so I don't know, but that's the perception of some people. It was told there right from the get-go, it was a provincial matter. I asked to see if Gordon Wilson was at that meeting. I'm not
He
sure
was
if he
not
showed
there,
up.
he did not come.
Because there was a dark meeting upstairs,
He couldn't-
Linda and I were there. There were some people around, and there were some councillors from Digby, but, you know, I guess it was assumed there right at the beginning that Digby and municipality was part of the roundabout. So.
But this came from Mr. Harvey, is what I was told, and I just like it checked on.
Well, we can ask to see if that's what he actually said.
Yeah, that's what I mean, I
Yeah.
like it dealt with, checked on, because I think it's something quite concerning.
I just gonna make a, oh, sorry. I was gonna make a point.
And the meeting got over at 7, and I went over after dark, it was done.
Yeah.
So I did go over after, but it didn't help. The only other thing I did want to bring up, and that I told you I couldn't find it, you know that area that we helped build the home on, Sandy Cove, by the beach?
Yep.
We put money into, we gave
$5
the
grand or something?
community a grant.
Who is in charge of that piece, because I'm getting complaints that there are campers going there and staying now overnight. And they're blocking the parking for people who are coming down to park.
Who owned the land?
Well,
TIR.
they came and they brought it to me because they thought it was us, because I'm the council of the area. And I said, I didn't think we did, but again, I bring it to ask. So who should I tell them they should be talking to? Or who should I
TIR and
call?
private landowners. Anytime I've been down there witnessed a camper, it would have been on a private landowner's property.
Well, they're saying they're right on the camp parking.
Even that, some of that is on private landowners. I think the community made arrangement with a private landowner to clear some of that land for parking. So TIR owns the roads and the road right of way. Beyond that, it's private landowners.
So who do I tell them to go to? I mean, they don't want people parking there,
I guess my question,
camping for 2 or 3 days.
It's up to the private landowner whether or not they want to stop people from parking on their land overnight. That's a private matter.
So who do I tell them that who?
They should talk to the owner of the property.
But who owns it? That's what I'm
I
asking.
don't know.
What do we call that, property online?
I don't know. So I
I
can,
think we're getting close to some disclosure issues there
Yeah.
too, right?
but I
Privacy
can,
issues.
so do I. All right, my question is, if I come out this week or next week, if I have who owns that property, so I can go talk to them on behalf of the community? Or do I have to put it in the
Around.
paper and ask who owns this property? Because I will. I'll
There
go
is
around.
Access Nova Scotia.
Yeah, access-
With Access Nova
There's others
Scotia,
too.
pay you $2 and you can go on.
There's another one, what's that one that everybody goes on that's free? It's like the popular one.
It doesn't go you, I don't know.
Doesn't tell you.
I mean, if they're blocking the road, then it's TIR, they should go contact.
Well, they're parking in parking lots, people can't park.
Brought us TI.
That's the problem.
They're
The
not
people
room
that
to
did the
do
work,
parking.
the people that did the work down there, you know, they must know who owns the land.
There's room for 50 cars?
Room for 50 cars,
Wow.
2 parking areas.
Yeah, and it's becoming like more than 1 or 2 or 3 vehicles. You know,
what happened?
all that. It's just kind of like a little mini parking, private parking for certain people, and they say they're tourists.
I don't know how to answer. I mean, we can do some research, but in terms of if it's a private individual allowing someone to camp on their property, there's nothing we can do
No,
about
the
it.
community is saying it's not, see, that's why they
Well,
thought.
they may
about it.
think it isn't,
Okay.
because there was private land.
There's a lot of private land there that people assume is public. Would be my comment here. There's a lot of private land that goes right up to the
Yeah,
TIR
and I
right
can't go
away.
talk to, Stephen Morehouse.
Time Memorial.
No, but there were people that were involved in that project. You might be able to talk to them directly, and I can get you that person's name.
Okay.
The person that requested the funding from us. I mean, that's really the only thing we can do, and I can do that. I can look at, back
Yeah,
and give
they
you that
came
letter.
here.
They did come here and made a presentation, right?
I can't remember who it was. I think it was Gina, but I'm not sure.
I think
Yeah.
you're right.
Gina and,
So I'd start with her.
Yeah, no problem.
Okay, we'll move on.
No, I wanted to mention her first point, about in regards to the roundabout, sort of mentioned to me, sort of cuts off walkers between Digby and the Black community, pedestrians. Maybe is something that's worth, that's definitely something I would think be worth mentioning to TIR.
That's why they're fixing it now.
Okay, so they are dealing with the
They
oversight.
are, they are, and additional
Okay.
sidewalk.
Good. Well, never mind then. That's, I missed that point. All right, thank you.
No, they charge you the next day.
Oh, good, well, what? They responded to people's. How'd that happen?
I guess it was a pretty attention ill used time.
All right, we're going to move on with correspondence and general information items. You received the National Pharmacare update, Nova Scotia Transportation Infrastructure Renewal, changes to the recoverable costs, which is going to be coming into effect in 2020, and the Digby Neck Connections newsletter for July 2019.
Hasn't that group ever done a lot, eh? What a good group, that would be nice.
The next is the advisory committee minutes and reports, the joint RCMP advisory April minutes. Is there any questions?
Linda, did you talk about in regards to the letter that I had sent for, okay, just wanted to see, so people, are you satisfied with it, or? I'll talk to you later, I guess.
Under joint intermunicipal committees and minutes reports, we've got the DARC May minutes and Recreation Director, Facility Manager, and Active Living June and July reports. Any questions?
Well, the other thing that was sent out was a notice that our recreation director, Bob Pally, retired.
What a loss.
As of November 15th.
Really had happened sometime, but.
You got to give something special, preparing with
He
you.
said that he slashed up 2 vehicles last year.
Private hire.
Winter time?
And he said he didn't want to do another winter.
I don't understand
Yeah.
that. That's not really a start.
IT roads. November 15th.
Geez, that's gonna be a sad day.
Okay, the next is the Tyview Terrace April minutes. Is there any questions? Waste check June meeting notes and AGM meeting notes and memo from the Nova Scotia Solid Waste Resource Management. Any questions? The Western Counties Regional Library February Board minutes. Any questions?
No, other than you do a lot of work for them.
The last one is the Wren LLC April minutes. Any questions? Just in regards to the Wren Liaison and Oversight Committee, we had a meeting last week and I became the chair. So, Mayor Mood stepped off the committee and.
Off the committee completely?
Yeah. So Deputy Mayor is serving on that for Phil Mooney for the town of Yarmouth.
Congratulations.
So, thank you. The next outside board committees minutes reports as applies to your quarterly highlights. Is there any questions for that? None? Okay, the next is council district activity reports, and we'll start with Councilor Tudor.
Been busy, sort of done a little, starting to figure out how we're gonna go ahead and try to get, infrastructure via title collectively with the various community groups down there that are interested, mostly the harbor authorities. Interestingly enough, I think it was 5 years ago that they said that they're gonna get the speedometer sign that we first asked for, the speedometer sign. It came today. You guess what though? They took the wheels off like we were gonna steal it. I didn't know about that. DOT's down there, they're doing a bunch of work that's been advocated by the village, myself, and a dozen letter writers over the last 10 years, and they're actually there doing it today. So we'll see how it goes. I'm quite happy with that.
They always take the wheels off, so they need someone.
Yeah, maybe. They're trying to save money. The groups are getting along really down the islands. That's what I'm most pleased with. There's so many, like the church people and the feminists and everybody you can imagine, all working together, the villages, and all kinds of nice stuff. Old folks. I like it. Been handing out a lot of disability forms, the long game. As I mentioned before, the nurse practitioner years ago said there's lots of people that should be on disability in my district, and she said for some reason they're not. So some of the long games guys have been dropping off these forms off for years and years and years. And actually, one of them's got a $30,000 payout the other day. So that was good. I cooked for the community dinner, touching base with community leaders. Oh, I had village meetings. I had 3 of them, still have a 4th to have. The main issue was a couple of houses were problem houses associated with hard drugs. And I went and sort of checked out the neighborhood, and both of them, one of them said that it was like a graveyard the last couple of weeks. So that's good. I guess it's nothing like complaining bitterly at a public meeting about somebody like that make them lay low for a while anyway. Writing letters for people. And, just stuff like that. Just your typical island issues. Dropping off food, filling out forms, helping people out here and there, mental health, physical, cancer, all those sorts of things. It's the typical island councilor stuff.
Okay, thank you. Councilor Manzer.
I attended the marketing committee meeting at the Big Fire Hall regarding the levy. Kennedy and Cermak, we had a meeting here, and I missed a couple things on the weekend because of sickness, music on the system, we were supposed to do some barbecue on Friday, picnic at the lighthouse on Sunday, but then
All right, thank you. You did lobster bash, though. You did lobster bash,
I
though.
did lobster bash, I missed cherry carnival.
Yeah. Can't do it all. No. Councilor Ross.
Went to the Richard Ellis Memorial Golf Tournament, did the meeting about the levy, some meetings in the district with the Sago Lodge, it's East Fishing Gate. Also went to Canada Day in Weymouth and here in Digby. I did the Cermak meeting, and I've been with Tudor filling out forms and meeting with people and dealing with various groups in the district, and I've had plenty of meetings this month, so it's been a busy July. It wasn't like last time. I was getting ready for the wedding last year, and I had all these evenings. This year it's been meeting.
I know exactly what you're saying.
Yeah.
Weird, so. That's it.
Okay, Deputy Warden Gregory.
I attended Jesus Memorial, on Canada Day. I was at the, opening for cake cutting, I helped serve the cake, along with the warden. Then I went away on vacation to Maiden Islands. I came back and I went to the University in Weymouth. I attended the fly-in at the airport, which I was very impressed with. I thought there was lots of people there. It was a good thing. I got to talk to a lot of the pilots, but then I went over and talked with the ground search and rescue, and we had a great chat. So I was glad I attended. I also, on the 20th, in place of our warden, I attended the unveiling of Rose Fortune, which, when we started, he stood up and said it would be about an hour and 15-minute ceremony. 2 hours and 20 minutes later, it finished.
Why so long?
I have no idea. It was well done, and it was interesting, but it was long. I mean, you know, and I got there, actually I had to drive through the town twice before I even got a driving license, because it was full with the, farmer's market, there wasn't a place to be held. And it took me exactly 12 minutes to come from the top of the town to the end of the town, go around and come back again, and do it again. So there was 24 minutes. So I finally did find a parking place. The guy went out. When he went out, I stood there slow in the car. And when he went out, I went in, and I was thinking, don't let him get in my way. So I still got there like probably 15 minutes early. And it was, like I said, the family was there. It was Ellen Melanson was the MC, but sometimes he gets sort of off track, and then he kept adding, like, if you speak, then he would add to what you said, and then if you spoke, then he'd add what you spoke, and then he's in the middle of reading a letter, which was really interesting, and he stopped and he said, oh, by the way, I don't know if I've introduced my wife. And so then he'd do his wife thing, then he'd come back to the letter. I mean, it was good, it was interesting, I'm glad I went, but I can tell you, when it started, and this is why I told him, he said, you know, just for people who are standing, you might want to try to find a seat. So I would say there was at least 300 people there in the beginning, and by the end of it, it had dropped quite a bit.
50?
Well, it was more than 50, but it, you know, because it was full, they were standing up on the rails, up on the thing. The unveiling was wonderful. Listening to the family, listening to the different letters. Colin Fraser was there and spoke as well, and of course the mayor. They thanked us for coming. They really appreciated that. Then I went down to Cherry Carnival, and I thought I'd die in the heat.
Ugh, sounds glad I didn't go.
And then after I left Cherry Carnival, I also attended, on another day I attended the levee, which I found very interesting, because I was glad that the reaction is, if we're going to do it, let them all do it. I thought that was good. And the only other thing is, I went to a meeting with the Masons, and they are saving bottle caps and the metal pieces off of the cans. And I know they're already saving metal pieces. But the bottle caps are going to the Ladies of the Nile, who send them to Halifax. And there's a young man there that is making arms and hand prostheses made for these recycled bottle caps that are being used. So I am asking if it would be a possibility that if we could have a little container in here, that we could collect bottle covers, bottle caps, any off the milk, and I would like to then take them, or if it was okay, to the Masons once a month at their breakfast or whatever, to give them out, if that is possible.
I don't see why not.
Yeah, so Islanders drop them off at It's Clams there. It's probably sharp.
Yeah, like I said, the only reason I'm bringing it up, because I thought what great addition.
It's good.
There is 3 wheelchairs that have come through the savings of the area, and the area that all the stuff they collect.
Linda, I don't know if I want you to know how many beer I drink, though.
You have plastic covers on them?
No, we're talking about now the
Your
metal
cloth.
cap. But anyway, it is a success with the prostheses. And again, where did it start? In Nova Scotia.
We're all good things there.
So, Besides that, I've had to deal with quite a few issues right now with TIR, with the people in my area. But I will say this, you can correct it quite fast.
Yeah,
So I've been impressed, so I don't know if we get someone different there or what,
I think we do.
because it's really nice. So
All right.
that's it for me.
Thank you. For myself, I did attend the July 1st flag raising ceremony and the cake on Weymouth Days with Deputy Warden, and former Senator Gerald Camo spoke as well. And the Lobster Bash opening ceremony, I attended that on behalf of the municipality. I was really pleased to see that all of council went to the marketing levy, because it's very important for this region. And I'm really pleased that we were all there, so that was good. And thank you for doing that. I went to Bear River, and our CAO and myself were both in attendance, but for the Still Standing production that was being done in Bear River and with Johnny Harris. And it'll be probably in about a year's time before that comes on TV, but I thought that was awesome to try to promote the area. And Jill, did you go to that?
I attended later, so I was part of the gallery, and I got to see it outside.
Oh, okay. You should have been earlier.
Yeah. I know, I heard that too.
But it was a really nice show, and I'm really pleased that they chose to come to Bear River, and I'm looking forward to seeing the show. They really, I think they nailed it well as to who they spoke to in the community, and I think it's going to really highlight Bear River very well. And so saying that, that's all I have to add for today. One thing about the roundabout, I did talk to Dawn Thomas, our senior safety coordinator, and she'd asked if she could get some information on roundabouts. So I spoke to the local manager, and he dropped off some brochures to me, which I'm going to pass on to Dawn, because she wants to have some sessions with seniors in the community as well, not just the session that the Province had. So that'll be upcoming. So,
The roundabout, you mean?
well, just to educate people on how to drive in the roundabouts. I've been out on that roundabout and met a car coming right at me going the wrong way.
I thought I knew how to use roundabouts, and I went up the wrong one. I have to wait to pass that on.
You're going to have to wait for the arrows.
It's too obvious for me or something. Confused by the arrow thing going this way.
You are teasing, right, David?
No, we don't.
Yes.
Thank you.
Yeah. All right, that's it. There's no in-camera for tonight.
Oh, wow.
So can I have a motion to adjourn?
So-
Second.
A second.
All in favor?
Wow.
Don't forget we have another meeting.
For the meeting.